Okay, for those of you who have joined the webinar, we'll just wait another minute or so as different guests are joining the webinar. Okay, I think we'll get going. It's just 1:15. So good afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome to our Business Management and Construction webinar. My name is Suzanne Golden, and I'm the Flexible Programme Development Officer here at the University of Galway. So this is the first in a series of information webinars that the Centre for Adult Learning and Professional Development is running throughout the month of July. So today's webinar is being recorded, and anybody who has registered will receive an email with a link to the recording sometime tomorrow. For those of you who are watching live, a very warm welcome to you. And if you're watching the recording back, then I hope that you will find it informative. Okay, so the running order of our webinar today is as follows. First of all, we'll do a short introduction to our panelists. Then we'll have a brief overview of our business management and construction courses that are currently open for applications. We'll touch on the notion of micro-credentials just to kind of give a little bit of an overview of what they are. We'll also make reference to recognition of prior learning. And then the main part of our webinar will be a question and answer session with our panel members. Okay, so without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our panel members to you. We have Aherne, who is a lecturer with our discipline of management, which is based in the School of Business and Economics. We also have Dr. Paul Moran, who is a lecturer in the discipline of civil engineering, which is based in the School of Engineering. And we're also very fortunate to have two students with us. We have Danielle Quinn and we have Sheila Nash. Both are current students who have just recently completed the Bachelor of Commerce online programme. So I'd like to start by just taking you through some of the business and management courses that are offered flexibly by the university. On this list, you can see that I've grouped them by the National Framework of Qualifications level. And you can see that we have a number of programs across those different levels. We have a diploma in foundation studies at level 6. We have 2 programs at level 8, and we also have 3 programs that we're going to talk about today that are at level 9. So just to give you a visual, this is a representation of the National Framework of Qualifications in Ireland. And the courses that we'll be referring to today are mainly, I suppose, mapped to the higher levels of that National Qualifications Framework at level 8 and level 9. Okay, so we'll just touch on some of our business and management programs, first of all, that are currently open for applications. Our Diploma in Foundation Studies, Business, Arts and Law is a joint level 6 diploma that we deliver in partnership with the Atlantic Technical University. It's a program that runs on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and it also has 1 Saturday session per month. This program is very suitable for mature learners who are interested in moving towards a full-time degree or a part-time degree at the University of Galway or at ATU in areas such as business, law and humanities. And really, I suppose this is an introductory level program which enables learners to touch on academic modules such as accountancy, business skills, economics and maths. And it also touches on, I suppose, some of the core learning skills that are really valuable in terms of supporting learners as they progress on through their studies, such as academic writing, study skills, academic technology, and there's also an element of college and career guidance in that program. So next I want to talk about some of the Bachelor of Commerce and linked courses that we run here at University of Galway. we have 4 programs that are all linked under the what we call our BCom Online program. We have a Bachelor of Commerce program, which has a duration of 4 years, and that's a level 8 major award. We also have 2 minor diplomas, one in management and one in marketing, and we also have a postgraduate higher diploma in business studies. Along with those I suppose, particular award programs, we also have a series of micro-credentials that are also offered every academic year. So currently at the moment, we have the Bachelor of Commerce program is currently open for applications, as is the Higher Diploma in Business Studies. That's also open for applications, as well as a series of the micro-credentials. They're also taking applications at the moment. So we might tip through some of these courses in a little bit more detail, just to give a sense of what's involved in them. So our Bachelor of Commerce online program is a 4-year course in business education that's delivered primarily online. It's tailored for students who want to develop the knowledge and skills needed to adapt to evolving business methods and environments throughout their career. The modules on this particular program are drawn from a range of disciplines in the School of Business and Economics, and they include management, marketing, economics, accountancy and finance, business information systems, and law and maths. Students who complete this program will have a sound knowledge of the fundamentals of business and management, and they also have an opportunity to gain more comprehensive grounding in specialist areas throughout the program, such as marketing, digital business and analytics, innovation and entrepreneurship. In total, the program has 36 modules. That's 9 modules per academic year. And in general, it takes students 4 years to complete this program on a part-time basis. At the end of those 4 years, students will receive a level 8 Bachelor of Commerce Honours Degree Award. So a real significant piece of learning will have been accumulated at the end of that particular learning pathway. Okay, the next program I just want to touch on then is our Higher Diploma in Business Studies. So this is a 2-year fully online postgraduate course that's designed specifically to provide non-business graduates with a well-rounded understanding of business to advance their careers in a business setting. Graduates on this program will develop the fundamental skills of business administration, which enables them to play an active role in the development and management of the business function across a range of sectors. So what we find is that learners who may have completed their initial degree in areas such as science or engineering or law may feel at a certain point that they then want to acquire some business understanding, knowledge and skills in that area. And that's where this program really comes into its own, because it enables learners to build on the qualification that they already have. And we find that learners who are maybe in their career, in their core undergraduate area for a certain amount of time, and are then starting to move into maybe more senior roles where there's an element of business and strategy involved. They're the type of learners that find this program actually particularly useful. Students complete 6 modules per academic year. That's a total of 12 altogether, and it leads to a level 8 higher diploma in business studies. And again, that is also a major award on the National Framework of Qualifications. Okay, so moving on then to a couple of the other programs that we wanted to highlight today. We also offer a postgraduate certificate in artificial intelligence for professionals, and this program is currently open for applications. This is really suitable for learners who would benefit professionally from gaining a high-level understanding of the field of artificial intelligence. The program focuses on the strategic and practical aspects of AI applications rather than going into the detail of programming and algorithms. The program is really suitable for those who'd like to explore the possibilities of how AI might be applied within their own organisation or industry sector. So this program is delivered over a 9-month period, and it's delivered entirely online. And there are significant fee subsidies for eligible candidates. And more details on all of the programs that we're speaking about today will be available from the university website. And you can use the QR code that's listed here, or just search for University of Galway Adult Learning or part-time courses, and you'll also get through to what we have available that way. Okay, so moving on then, I just want to touch on two of our construction innovation programs that are open for applications. The first is the postgraduate certificate in modern methods of construction. So this is a one-year part-time course made up of 30 ECTS credits. This program enables students to develop skills and knowledge in sustainability, digitalization, and modern methods of construction. So students will learn to identify opportunities and obviously challenges for innovation in the construction sector. And again, this program also has partial and limited funding available from Industry 4.0 SkillNet, and full information is available on the course webpage. And then finally, in terms of our courses that I want to mention today, it's the Postgraduate Diploma in Construction Innovation. So this is another level on from the postgraduate certificate. This also is a one-year part-time course worth 60 ECTS credits. This program was developed in response to critical and proven skills needs in the construction and the built environment sector. And this program really enables learners to develop innovative concepts, to identify market opportunities, and to tackle challenges related to getting new building products and services to market. The course will support the development of a modernised and sustainable construction sector underpinned by circular economy and climate action. So a program that's really, I suppose, of its time. And, it's a very popular program by virtue of the fact also that it has Springboard Plus funding available. So full information about this program and the funding opportunity and how to apply is available on the program web page. Now, at the start, I also made a reference to micro-credentials, and we still find that students and potential learners are a little bit confused by what this means. So essentially, micro-credentials are short accredited courses. They provide learning opportunities which offer a highly flexible, bite-sized and accessible way of upskilling and reskilling. And they're really designed to meet the demands of learners and enterprise and organisations of the moment, I suppose. So really, we often find our micro-credentials are really in areas where there's a real skills need or a skills gap in the sector at the moment. University of Galway has over 65 micro-credentials on offer, and many of these are in the business and management field. And full information on all the micro-credentials, including details such as when they're offered, how they're delivered, and details on the course content is available from University of Galway's micro-credentials website. And then the final, I suppose, item I want to mention is recognition of prior learning. So this is something that has become definitely more popular, and we're finding more learners are interested in this topic. Essentially, recognition of prior learning is a process by which previous learning is formally valued by University of Galway. Through the RPL process, prior learning is identified, assessed and recognised by the university in relation to the courses of such study that it offers. So often learners ask us, well, what is prior learning? What kind of prior learning can I have or could I have acquired? So really, prior learning is any learning that you may have acquired through previous formal courses or through work experience or training that you have undertaken. And the RPL process can be used by learners to gain entry to a course of study where they maybe don't meet the standard entry criteria. It can also enable learners to earn advanced entry onto a course of study. So for example, they could get entry into year 2 or indeed into year 3 of a programme. RPL can also enable learners to be exempted from one or more modules on a course. So again, it's all about, I suppose, opening up learning pathways for learners and to ensure that they don't have to repeat learning that they can evidence to the university. Okay, a number of the courses that we have referenced here today have various different sources of funding. Some have Springboard Plus funding, some are funded through one of the skill nets. A number of our micro-credentials have a learner subsidy. And here at the Centre for Adult Learning and Professional Development, we also offer an adult learning tuition scholarship. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces that I've covered in that very short presentation. But I think most of that information is available from our CALPD website. So you can, log on to that site and get further information there. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to move on to the panel part of the webinar. So just bear with me now and I'll stop sharing. So hopefully that has stopped sharing. Now we have a number of panelists that I introduced at the start of the session. So maybe I'm going to ask a couple of questions to each of you, and I think that'll help to get the discussion going as we wait for more questions to come from the guests that have registered for the webinar today. So Gera, I might come to you first of all. You're a lecturer in the discipline of management and you teach a selection of management related modules on a number of online courses. Can you maybe tell us how those modules are taught and what learners can expect from a module that is delivered in a fully online mode?
Okay, thanks for having me here, Suzanne. So I teach 3 modules currently. I teach business strategy, I teach innovation and entrepreneurship, and I'm teaching a new module this year with our first year students, management, enterprise and society. So for me, one of the things I feel is really important for adults in an online environment is engagement. Very often, you're attending lectures in the evening time, you're maybe very tired. So if you can get students involved in the discussion rather than simply, I suppose, speaking to them, I think you create a much better learning environment. So what I tend to do in the modules that I teach is we'll have a certain amount where, yes, we do the normal format, we cover the content, we do the recordings, but then there's opportunities for student engagement as well. Now, one of the reasons that I do this is adults come into an adult learning classroom with an absolute wealth of experience. They possibly, they're doing something similar in the job they're doing. And that peer-to-peer learning piece for me is very important. So say with any 2-hour lecture I would have at least 2 breakout rooms. And either I would set the students a topic based on what we had covered in the class so far, or else I might have given them something like a TED Talk or a journal article to read, and they'll discuss that. So that tends to be the way I operate a classroom. There's a certain amount of engagement, there's a certain amount of interaction. Also with assessments in the modules I teach, there's a couple of things I try to do as well. I try to make sure that the students can really apply what they're learning to their own industries or to an industry that maybe they hope to work in going down the line. So say, for example, in business strategy, I will set a question, but I will ask them to look at a particular type of industry. Either maybe they work in med tech, or perhaps they're interested in getting into pharmaceutical or retail or whatever it happens to be. And then for assessment as well, where I can, I generally give a choice of assessment. So maybe I ask them to play to their strengths. They might get to do a presentation, or they might, get to do some sort of a business report. So I try to be authentic where I can. Your boss is never going to ask you to write an essay, but they may ask you to give a presentation. They may ask you to give a business report. And I try to keep the materials in my modules up to date, and also give kind of multiple types of resources as well. So yes, we look at the book, we look at the journal articles, but the super podcasts out there, there's great TED Talks. And obviously everybody learns in different ways. So it's probably a very long answer to your question, Suzanne.
No, I think that's really useful. And I think you touched on a really important point as well, Ger, in terms of choice, giving learners an opportunity to choose the type of assessment they might want to do. And I think that's really important because it's about building a sense of control over your own learning pathway. So I think that's really important. Danielle, I might come to you now if that's okay. So you're a student who's just finished the Bachelor of Commerce program. Yay, says you, I'm sure. Well done.
Thank you.
So maybe I'll just take you right back to the start, Danielle. So can you tell us maybe why you chose this course and what your learning experience has been like?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Suzanne. And yeah, God, when I think back 4 years ago, I remember starting this course and thinking, oh my goodness, how will I ever get through? And then all of a sudden you're out the other side of it. And I think that sense of achievement now more so at the end when I look back and think over different assignments and assessments that have went on, you really do push through. And I think you're going back because you're so capable of doing it. And I think getting through the course is a prime example of just how capable anyone is to go back and learning, regardless of age or what stage of your career you're at. I think choosing this course in particular, it was quite important for me to go back and really open my learning capabilities to a broad sense of topics. And I think for the Bachelor of Commerce, that's something it really touches on, whether it's the accounting route, the marketing, the digital aspect. You really get a sense for different elements of the course throughout. And I think those different elements, I've found some of the modules were actually more the ones I enjoyed than other ones that I thought I would have preferred. So it really is, I suppose, an eye-opener for where you can leverage this course in your own career, or I'm in a sales industry at the moment. So I found there's so many modules that I've been able to apply, whether that's conversational, dealing with difficult situations, looking at leading various elements of my team, how I can apply that. Law, I had a various law module as well. I do contracts in my job, so it really went hand in hand. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, I think that's great, Danielle. And again, I think you really highlighted the one of the benefits of the Bachelor of Commerce program, which is the breadth of modules and the breadth of disciplines that feed into it. And often I think when learners are starting a program, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. And that opportunity to dip into lots of different modules is a real way for ensuring that you can identify and get a good broad base of I suppose, a business acumen from a program like this. So that's great, Danielle. Thank you so much. Paul, I'm going to come to you next now. So you're a lecturer in the School of Engineering and you teach on our Construction Innovation program. Can you maybe tell us how modules on these programs are taught and what kind of learning experience students can expect on those programs?
Sure. So the way we run our modules they're completely online. So students will be given a packet of information on Monday that they'd be required to read. And then on Wednesday evening sessions from 7 to 9, we would run an online class. And generally the way we run them will be similar to what Ger mentioned earlier, where we'd spend some portion of the class going through the theory aspect. And then for the second half of the class, we'd be putting students into groups where they go away and work through an exercise and get that peer-to-peer learning, working through that. Then we would also have one Saturday every 8 weeks where students would come to campus, or we would go to a company, for example, where everybody would come together on that one Saturday session and they would work through various different exercises. So for example, on the Modern Methods of Construction module that we run, for the past 2 years, we've gone to a company that's developed offsite prefabricated housing, and they essentially show the students their entire process, to the way they design their buildings, to how they actually manufacture those buildings within their factory, and how they then transport those buildings to site then. So we get that peer-to-peer learning from the students in there, and then from the company giving their knowledge back to the students as well. So a nice blend of the way we try and approach our modules on part of our course.
That's great, Paul. And I think you've given a really good insight into what it's like to be a student on that program. And I'd imagine that those types of site visits are really beneficial to learners because you're really seeing the application of that theory that you may have covered in the earlier parts of modules really coming to life at that stage. Great. Okay, Sheila, I'm gonna come to you today. It's great to have you here. And again, you've also just completed the Bachelor of Commerce program, so I'm sure been a great sense of relief over the last couple of weeks as the realization sets in that, you know, all modules completed and you've got a free summer ahead of you. So I guess a question we often get from prospective learners is how much time will I need to devote to a particular course? So maybe could you tell us a little bit how you might have approached that challenge? You know, how did you balance your professional, personal life with your academic commitments? And maybe have you any tips for somebody who might be starting out on a journey like that?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks, Suzanne, for inviting me here today. Secondly, I think in relation to the Bachelor of Commerce, I think the biggest thing for me was first of all, at the start of each semester, understanding or that they're 12-week semesters, so it's not a huge chunk of time. The end is nearly in sight of the semester before you start. So it is only that 12 weeks that you have to kind of work through. Now, look, at the reality of it is you are busy for the 12 weeks. I don't think anybody would deny that. But I found a few things that worked well for me were, one, I suppose, is taking advantage of little pockets of time that might go, you know, unoccupied otherwise. Like, for example, a half an hour, like I've sat in hair salons and read through texts that I've needed for assignments while, you know, while I'm there. And otherwise that's wasted time, or you might be scrolling your phone or something, and it's a half an hour of work already done that day. Or I've logged into lectures or like that, you know, worked on assignments like while I've been waiting for my kids at their activities or that. So over the course of the day, if you're organized, now you do have to be organized and plan ahead to take advantage of those little time pockets. But if you are, you can actually get quite a bit of work done without it having any impact on your personal or professional life before you even maybe start into work that you might have planned for the day. So I think things like that, being organized though, I think is the big thing for the 12 weeks, and being ready to take advantage of those things. People will know themselves where they could potentially fit them in, and just slotting them in then and working around it that way. That's what I found worked best for me.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Sheila. And I think, you know, you've really highlighted how, you know, there's an awful lot of time that we all waste. We all know ourselves that there, and I think really when you sit back and you can kind of maybe shadow out those elements of time, you can begin to see significant pockets that you might be able to use a little bit more productively. And again, I think you know, when somebody has made a conscious decision to join a program of study on a part-time basis, that conscious effort in and of itself is actually quite motivational. It's you've made the decision, you're in control of having joined this program, nobody has pushed you into it. And that often is a real driving force to ensure that you make time to find, or you make the effort to find time to be able to engage in those studies and to complete the relevant assignment work. So I think, you know, what you've said there is all really, really good advice. Okay, Paul, I might come back to you again actually with another question, if that's okay. So we find that adult learners that are undertaking flexible and part-time courses usually have really significant experience that they can draw from. And I'd imagine that you see that in particular on the construction innovation programs. Could you maybe tell us why you enjoy teaching these types of learners, and what, you know, as a lecturer, what you might gain from that?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so that's probably one of my favorite aspects of our course, is that there's people from so many different areas of the construction sector, because it's such a broad network. There's so many different roles, and that people have their own expertise within other areas. So like we have people who have just graduated from other programs, we have people in their 50s and 60s, all either within like their graduate roles, their senior roles, or their kind of intermediate roles, and they can be from architects to building designers to sustainability officers. So there's a broad range of experiences, and we really try to get those experiences across in the exercises that we get the students to do, so they can think about, you know, a problem from the opinion of an architect versus a building designer versus a planning officer. So trying to understand their thinking and how they apply to a particular solution, and then they can start to think about that then moving forward in their own role. So really trying to get those experiences across through the exercise that we get students to do. And then, you know, I'm learning myself from these students because they're in their own roles, they have their own expertise. So it's not just the students that are learning, it's I'm actually learning from the students in some circumstances because they're experts in a particular maybe subject they were focused on one session. They're doing that every day of their lives. And then I'm learning from them as well. So it's very, very beneficial for everybody, I think.
Yeah, great. And I think, Paul, you've really highlighted one of the main benefits and the key advantages of participating in a part-time or an adult learning program. It's that peer learning component. And I think that aspect actually applies to every program of study, regardless of what particular discipline it's embedded in. The peer learning, the network you build up, the individuals you meet, their contacts, their connections that you have long after your program of study has actually completed. So very, very important points that you highlighted there. Okay, so continuing on then, and Danielle, I have one final question for you. Has completing your Bachelor of Commerce program opened up any professional or career opportunities for you that you could have seen throughout the duration of your studies?
Yeah, really good question, actually. And I think when you finish this degree and you're working, I think you feel like you can do anything. And so when you do get to that stage, it is a really tremendous feeling. I'm sure Sheila feels the same way too. But for me, it's switched, I think, that thought process in my own brain of thinking, okay, how can I use this now? You know, and I think building off what Sheila said also, you know, you've gone back because of your want to go into this and complete it. So now it's about how can I apply this in the real life world. And as I've only just graduated over just a week ago, it's still quite soon, but I know I've already kind of opened up the conversations internally with work at the moment. You know, like, this is what I've done over the last 4 years. You know, what are the avenues or routes I can explore internally? And already, you know, there's a bit of a sense of excitement. Oh, what can you do next? So while it's not solidified exactly, I think it immediately just switched the thought process of how can I apply myself a little bit better? And I think that's the biggest sense of achievement out of getting to this point now. So yeah.
Great. Yeah. And I think, you know, absolutely. I think what you've said there is really, really important. And we know from other learners that having a degree, having an honours degree is a significant asset when you're looking to develop your career, when you're looking to move up the career ladder, because it's amazing the number of roles when they're advertised that one of the essential criteria are that you have a degree. So if you don't have that degree, then, you know, you're excluded from those types of roles. So having the degree in your pocket now means that you can look at a much broader width of avenues in terms of your career progression. So it's a real strength to anybody's career profile to have a degree. Okay, Sheila, I have one more question for you. I suppose, as well as the learning acquired on a program of study, students also find that there's other benefits to participating in a university level program of study. So I suppose my question to you then is, how has the Bachelor of Commerce maybe influenced your personal confidence or your mindset? Can you maybe talk to us a little bit about that?
Okay, well, I think actually I find that quite an interesting question, Suzanne, because over the past 4 years, it's something that I've really noticed has changed for me in terms of, like, I would have had an awful lot of industry experience, but I suppose I didn't have that degree to back it up. And now doing the Bachelor of Commerce, I found really helped me, like, to understand, I suppose I had the experience and to kind of see the theory or the logic behind it. if that makes sense, and to understand, okay, well, that's how that works, so that's why that works that way. I can kind of marry the two of them now, really. And I think that has given me huge confidence. I think as well, what the degree program did, another thing it did for me is it really enhanced my writing skills. I remember sitting on a similar call to this with you, Suzanne, 4 years ago, and you mentioned about an assignment you might write in year 1 versus year 4 will be very different. And I thought, no, I'll be the exception to that rule. But I'm not the exception to that rule. I can't get over how much it has developed and how that has benefited me, even in my personal life and kind of, volunteer roles that you do in that, how that has stood to me in that respect also. So I do think it definitely has helped my confidence in various areas, both not just in a professional capacity, but in a personal capacity as well, definitely. I hope that answers the question. Sorry.
It does, absolutely, Sheila. And I think, what you've said there is very powerful, because it really demonstrates how engaging in education can have a significant benefit on an individual, both personally and professionally. And that personal development is so broad in terms of, it's not just in relation to the academic sphere, but it's all those other attributes that are also impacted. And it's something that we hear time and time again from learners, is that the impact it has on a person's personal confidence in their ability, in their, I suppose, that sense that, I can stand on my own feet now in terms of the qualification I have. I can make a contribution, and that contribution is going to be a valuable contribution. And it's amazing. I suppose that's the power of education, really, in a way. So thank you so much, Sheila, for that contribution. And Ger, I'm going to come back to you and ask you, as a lecturer, have you any tips for prospective students, just in terms of closing out where we might lead with that discussion?
Okay, I suppose one of the things that I would say, and it kind of follows on from the first thing that Sheila said about the time pockets, I would say if you're embarking, on a degree, to be ruthless in terms of your time management and to carve out the spots for yourself that you're going to be able to do. So say, for example, I have one student who's night shift, and she told me that she used to, stay up for a couple of hours after she came home from night shift, and then she'd potter about the house and go to work. Whereas once she went back to college, she went to bed straight away. She got up at a particular time and she gave herself a 2-hour gap that she could do some work. And this was just, no matter what happened, she kept that. So it's to think about that in advance, I think, is important. And then what Sheila said about the time pockets, I have a bit of a policy for myself, because I've gone back multiple times as a mature student, and I'm back again. And I call it the no zero days. And what I do is I make sure that I do something every day. So it could be a day I'm tired. That could simply be, to have a general read of something, or to file my notes, or do something like that. And also, for other programs I did, I remember having the journal articles in my handbag. And when the kids would be practicing, camogie or whatever it was, I would be in the car furiously writing notes on these things. So, you can listen to a podcast or a lecture when you're out walking. So I think that's really, really important. The second thing I would say is, and back to the points that Paul made, is, if you're signing up to do this, remember what you already know is really valuable. Like Danielle talked there about leading her team, and you have that leadership experience already. And in a way, sometimes doing the degree simply provides you with validation that you do a lot of these things well already, but there's things that you can do to improve that even more. The third thing, and only one more after that, I would say is, put a lot of effort in initially to the learning to learn piece. Some of the hardest things to get to grips with are things like using the library, and our library is amazing, and they have wonderful short videos on how to access everything. Things like get to grips with your citations early, pain in the ass, but well worth it as you go down the line. And any extra academic writing things that you can do. And then finally, what I would say is, adults go through an awful lot to go back to study. It's a massive sacrifice. And I am the proudest person on graduation day when I see everybody there, because a lot of the times I know what they've had to go through to get there. So there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows as well. And I would say celebrate every single win. Every single assignment you do is an assignment closer to your degree. And also to be conscious that there are going to be, tougher times too. Times when you're really busy in work or your kids are sick or whatever, but they will pass as well and you will get over that. So that would be my top things to think about in terms of if you're going back.
Yeah, and that's all really, really valuable, Ger. I think you've highlighted a number of points there that I think prospective learners will find very useful. The other thing I'll add to that is keeping the finish line in sight. That goal of what you want out of this program, getting that award, visualizing yourself going up to collect your parchment. For me, at different times throughout my learning journey, that has been the thing that has helped keep that drive going to say, okay, I need, as you say, you need to kind of get up, you need to do something today in relation to your program. So everybody will find different ways, I think, to help motivate their activity to move forward and their ambition in relation to a program. Okay, well, I think we've touched on a real broad range of topics there throughout our discussion today. And I suppose what I'd like to highlight is that obviously we haven't covered every question that a potential learner might have. But what I would say is that if you're listening today or you're watching back this webinar and you still have a question after watching this, reach out to us. We're more than happy here in the university to have a conversation with you. We can give you a call. We can have, a couple of minutes having a chat about your query and just to tease it out. And sometimes we find learners actually, they have a question, but they're just not maybe sure how to tease that question out. So a conversation can be a really good way of working through a number of different topics and helping to give people maybe a more rounded understanding of a program of study. So I'm going to finish up our session by thanking our panelists today, Ger Aherne, Paul Moran. Thank you both for your contribution. In particular, I want to thank Danielle Quinn and Sheila Nash, two of our students from our Bachelor of Commerce program. Your contribution has been really valuable today, and we're very grateful for you giving up your time and for speaking to us throughout this webinar. What you've commented on and what you've provided has just been really useful.